Alrighty ho. Looks like we're live. Okay, so we're gonna continue with the Arcade Madness development. In yesterday's stream, I showed that, I still had the project and that the keyboard was working. But I also have this Nintendo Switch Pro controller that I have hooked up by directly by USB right now, and you can see in game controllers that the Pro controller is showing up. And if I unplug it, it disappears. And if I plug it back in, it reappears. So it's definitely there. So let's go see if I actually got far enough to actually make this work. Come on, computer. It's really... one of the downsides here is I don't have the chat open. I wish I did. Anyway. I like that it's still called Multiplayer Madness. So I guess let's just run it and see if the controller is supported. Oh, what is happening right now? I'm so confused. Select your controllers. Hold A when ready to start the game. Okay. I think something's up with the controller. What is happening right now? Let me try a different one. Dude, what is happening? What on earth? What? Okay. Everything's gone completely insane. Is that something to do with this cord? Let me just try plugging this directly in, because I have it plugged in through a dock right now. This is not a problem I was expecting to have. And sometimes the dock likes to do some weird stuff. Maybe that's what's going on. Or maybe it's just this cord. Okay, let's see. No, this controller's still going completely insane. Okay, that's weird. How about we try an Xbox controller? I have like the worst stomach cramps today. Okay, it should. Okay. That works. I'm surprised that the Switch controller doesn't work. But that looks like it's less of a problem with my code and more of a problem with something else. I don't know. Something with Windows. And that's just not a problem I want to have to solve right now. What the frick, man? That's crazy. Okay, let's go back into this. So, hit A. That works. I don't have the analog stick set up. But I do have the digital pad set up to move around. And so, the red character... So you can see this number 3 in here. That means that it's controller number 1, because the controller inputs, the way that I set it up is number 1 is keyboard 1 and number 2 is keyboard 2. So 1 would be WASD and 2 would be the cursor keys. And then 3 is actual controller input number 1. So if I hit space, you can see the green guy ends up as 1, because that's keyboard. And then if I hit enter, then that is keyboard number 2, also controller number 2. And in fact, if we go into the code, we can see this. And I think object main is probably where this stuff is. Yeah, it's been a while working on this. So, excuse me if I get things wrong, because it's been a long time since I've been in my own code here. It's really interesting. Okay, so we got some. These are basically constants. I don't know why they call them macros in GameMaker Studio. Okay, so the gamepad count, gamepad get device count. I think that's just getting how many devices are attached. Let's take a look. This function either gives you the number of gamepads connected or the number of available slots for gamepads to be connected to. The actual return value will depend on the platform and the internal configuration of the platform. So in this case, from Windows. And such, this function should be used in conjunction with gamepad is connected to make sure of the exact number of pads connected at any time. So, okay, so, and I think in this case, if I remember correctly, Windows returns the number 12. Because you can have up to 4 Xbox style controllers, or you can have up to 8 non-Xbox style, which, excuse the terminology, but you can actually have up to 12 controllers connected, but there's some rules about that. Okay, so that's fine. And so I'm checking here to say if it's less than 6, you know, whatever. Make sure it's at least 6. I don't know why I'm doing that. Okay, so gamepad count. But then we have GPads equals the gamepad count plus 3. And then we're creating some arrays. Okay, so the arrays. So GPad, I think, you can see I'm turning these arrays into structures down here, right? And this loop just blanks everything out. And so GPad, I think, is the current state of the controller. GPad last, I think, is the state of the controller on the last iteration. So, you know, the previous state. GPad down, I think, means that, I think that's like a single blip, like you just pushed a button down, like the state just changed. And GPad up is that it just came back up. Then GPad timer is a count of how many steps, basically frames, a particular button has been held down for. And so, yeah, here you can see, then we have this description where 0 is nothing, and 1 is WASD, and 2 is up, down, left, right, but 2 isn't actually working. And then we're going from 0 through the gamepad count, so basically 3 up through wherever that ends, and naming this one gamepad number 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. And then we have these player objects, some player colors that have just been hard-coded in there. Looks like I actually made a script called clear players. Oh, ooh, all kinds of scripts over here. Oh, so this actually goes through and actually destroys the actual player objects if they exist as well. Okay. I don't think we need. Well, I'll leave that there for now. This is the code that turns the game off. What are we up? 8? Geez, 8 minutes. Dang. Okay. Okay. Well, that's pretty good. And now, so that's the creation event. And so if I go to the room, you'll see that the room has object main in there. And so when this happens, it's really this create event that's responsible for actually starting the game. And so down here, you can see that if we haven't expired, then we're going to load object start menu. It's not in there, so it's going to be part of the menus. There we go. Object start menu, and then there's the the creation of that title string, Arcade Madness. We're clearing the players again, apparently. There is a star array. Basically, every element is a star. And then the step, we have this color step timer. I think that's for the letters of the title to cycle. In fact, if I just play that, you'll see that object running right here. And so that is this. You see how these if you follow it here, you'll see you can follow the red. It's moving. And that's what that is. And then you could also see the stars in the background. Okay, nice. Yeah, sorry, I'm getting stuck in my own brain right now. Now, I think that object main, so object main will always exist. It's really kind of the master loop. Except it's not, I remember before there was object-oriented programming, which this is semi-object-oriented. It was just kind of a straight loop, and you'd have a main game loop, and you had to jump between things. But in this case, we can have multiple objects running code in this kind of step loop. And so in this case, on object main, this is responsible for checking controller input. And so you'll see right here, record last state of the gamepads. We're taking the current state from Gpad and putting it into Gpad last. So that's how we're grabbing that. And then down here, we're grabbing the, this is WASD. And we're putting all of that in. Gamepad 2, it looks like we're not doing anything really besides just grabbing just the enter key, which is the fire key. I think we should fix this because it's kind of handy to have it. Okay, yeah, I think this should be pretty straightforward. Okay, and then we're getting the physical gamepads. We're doing gamepad button check. Now, granted, we're not doing a gamepad is connected here. And maybe we should be doing that, but I think if it isn't connected, that this returns false. I'm just going to put that in as a to-do, because I don't know if we really need it. Keyboard check. Oh, okay. Yeah, so I put this in because sometimes I don't have enough controllers connected. So I can actually press F1 through F8 to just fire any gamepad button just to add additional controllers. It's kind of handy. Okay, and so now we're going to loop through again. So now we have the last state and we have the current state of the controller, right? The state of where the controller was in the previous frame and where it currently is. And so this loop is responsible for detecting changes and then also recording the amount of time something is pushed in for. So you'll see like right here, remember Gpad down is going to be active for one step or one frame if the button is pushed, but it was not pushed in the last frame. And that's going to be the same for A, B, left, right, up, down, and start. And then Gpad up is the other way around. The button is not pushed, but it was pushed. And so when you push down A, this is going to be true for one frame. And then when you let go of A, this is going to be true for one frame. So this allows you to kind of, just catch those events, because you can catch the events of things individually with, with the events that already exist. Although I don't know if there's anything for controllers in here. There probably is. Like you can on this, you see key up, key down, and stuff like that. But you really have to have something in here that's going to allow you to catch it reliably. And what I don't want to do is put this code into the actual game objects themselves. I want to make sure that these already exist. And so that's why object main is responsible for this. And then Gpad timer. So Gpad timer A equals, and this is a conditional. If this is true, then it's going to equal this. But if this is not true, then it's going to equal 0. And so the number is, the number represents, can't speak. The number represents the number of frames this button has been held down for. And so if this is true, we're going to add 1 to Gpad timer and then the controller.a. That makes sense. Maybe we would also want to do that for left, right, up, and down. We probably should. but I'm not going to worry about that right now. Oh, what on earth? Okay, I wasn't expecting that. We're going to run this. I want to make sure, we'll go full screen again. So I'll hit space. So there's number 1. I'll hit enter. There's number 2. And I'm going to hit A. There's number 3. And he works as well. And so now, so in this case, when I hold down A, you'll remember that, you know, G-pad down is going to flip to 1 momentarily. But G-pad A is going to maintain on, and then G-pad timer is going to be increasing. And if I'm on the start menu, and we look at the step right here, let's take a look. Well, where is it? So we're in ready right here. Okay, so this, so just to go over this real quick, there's a screen state, right? You saw the load screen. At the end of object main, under the create, there's load screen. And so these menus are basically screens, and, you know, a menu has to, a screen or a menu has to fade in, and it has to be able to close out as well before the next one, you know, before you switch anywhere, basically. And so that's why we have these different screen states. And so in the case of the menu, if the state is opening, we actually just change it straight to ready. And once we're in the ready state, that's when we have this real code running. And then obviously closing, you can see this basically fades it out. And once the opacity is 0, which means nothing is visible, we destroy this object and we go to the next screen. And next screen basically preloads whatever we put into the load screen there. But right here, you can see we're looping through the gamepads. If object main players 1, gamepad equals 0. This is very confusing. I can't even read my own code right now. Strange. I don't know. What I'm trying to work out is how do we... Oh. Okay, so the start menu is just... I got it. Alright, so at the start menu, we don't have any players initiated. Somebody has to press A. It could be anybody. The first person to press A becomes player 1. So if I hit A, I am now player 1. I'm red, but I am controller 3. And then if we go to object controllers, which, I'm sorry, if we go back to the start menu here, you can see that's the next screen that's going to load, right? And then in object controllers, again, we have this kind of screen state thing going on. Yeah, okay, and so we're going through the gamepads. We're allowing to select... We could basically assign more players. Every time someone else presses A, this is how they get assigned in. So they're checking the gamepad. As long as this isn't the initial gamepad, I guess. Okay. Some of this code might be a little redundant in here. This code allows us to move the players around. So we go through players 1 through 8. If the player has a gamepad assigned, we find their player object, and then left, right, up, down changes the X and Y coordinates for the object. That makes sense. But then up here you can see if object main G-pad timer of player 1's gamepad A is greater than 60 frames, which we're running at 60 frames per second, so that's going to be if you held it down for a second, then we're going to load screen object game select. Now, if I recall correctly, if I say load screen, it's going to change. Let's go take a look. Load screen. Yep, here we go. So load screen, if we have a screen, it's going to change the screen, the current screen state to closing. And it's going to set screen next to object. And then when we actually do next screen, that's when we actually really load the object. And so that's how that screen state changes. Oh my gosh, there's so much stuff going on in all of this. And then, of course, you have your game select, which we have a DS list. Okay. DS, I think, stands for data structure. There's the name of the game, and then there's the object. And every game, every mini game, has its own object. And that object is responsible for creating all of the other objects that make the game operate. And then when the game ends, it's responsible for killing all of the objects. And then, so here we are in this one, opening, and theoretically, with this set screen state, there would be some kind of animation that makes this game really load. Actually, there probably is. Let's go. Object space rocks, right? So, if the game state is play. Okay, so there's screen state and there's game state. Okay, so in this case, on opening, we're just changing it straight to ready. And game state play. And then when the game state is play right here, you can see we've got a bunch of stars and stuff. And so, yeah, this all makes, I think the structure of this is pretty good right now. Oh, I currently have the game running. Let's go see. And so, again, you can see here's that 60 frame timer of me holding down A. And there's the kind of cool little animation of that guy. And here he is coming in. So I think what I need to do, because this looks pretty good. This works. You can get destroyed. Yeah, I think what I would like to do, oh my gosh. I think I'd like to change a few things up here. So when I crash into that, when I respawn down here, I would like it if it could just destroy any asteroids kind of within my immediate vicinity, because otherwise I just get destroyed by it, right? Oh, and I shouldn't be able to move when I'm warping in. You see how I'm doing that? But, yeah, so I think I'd like to do that. And then I think I also need to get a game timer working, because these mini games are supposed to last a certain amount of time. And with that said, probably object main, because this is the main. The main object is always going to be around, right? We can always reference this. There's only ever one of these. I think we need to have some variables. And so here's some globals right here. But I think we also need, you know, like what's the game length? What's the mini game length going to be in minutes? I don't really know what to call this. Game. Let's say. My number of games. We'll say number of games is 10. Play game length. I'm going to say 3 minutes. I don't know. So if you have it there and you obviously have... so if it's 3 minutes per mini game and you play 10 games, I'm going to make it 5 games. 5 games, 3 minutes per game. Right? That means you're going to play for about 15 minutes. And the idea is, you know, I guess I should kind of come back to this. So obviously this doesn't count as the time. But when you start playing, once we get into this game, the timer has theoretically started. So that 3 minutes, we're already 5 seconds into it. At the end of the 3 minutes, this game would end. The game object would be responsible for destroying all of the asteroids and cleaning this up. And then the next game object would already have loaded in. Oh my gosh, I need to stop coughing. And would start spawning its objects to give you a different mini game to play. And part of this, you see when I crash and it does this effect, part of that is it's supposed to be kind of like lightning, so you can make the player disappear and then make them reappear somewhere else. Because if I'm in the midst of playing this game and we run out of time, and you know the object main, or kind of the game master is what I should call it, then says, hey, we're going to switch from Space Rocks over to Maze Escape, we would then bring everybody in there. And that's how we would start the game. And so, and then, you know, after this game, at some point, it's going to take the players out, destroy the maze visually in some nice way, and it's going to switch to another game. Although I don't have that other game in there right now. It looks like I was trying to make an Indy 500 game, but it'll be like a little racing game, but I never got anywhere with that. Anyway, where are we at? We're at 26 minutes. I think I have a good idea as to what I'm doing. I think also though, I need to keep some notes as to where we're at here, right? And I can probably keep it right in here. Okay, yeah, let's do it here. So it's 11/26/2022. Okay, so we added new variables. Let me just borrow this real quick. I don't want to have to retype it. Number of games to play in session, length of each game. Ideally, this would mean a full game would last approximately 15 minutes. We need to implement this and make it switch to the next game automatically. We'll need an array of the games that are going to be played. Because theoretically, you want to know what game you're actually going to go into. Maze Escape and Space Rocks need to be finished and have transitions, screen transitions. I think that's where we're at. Not going to get any of that done today, but this is really what I need to work on next. That makes sense, because if I can get Space Rocks to work, like you can go through the whole thing, even if there's not a boss at the end right now, I don't think that really matters. If you can just go through it and you score the highest points, and then you get to the end and it can morph you away into Maze Escape, and then you can get through that and win. And, you know, that's all there is right now. You're only really going to get a 6-minute game. At least it would work. And then, you know, maybe we can add some sound effects and music and stuff like that to it. And then at that point, I feel like that's a pretty solid proof of concept. You know, ideally, I'd like to add a few more mini games, but I don't want to make so many mini games of such a low quality that are uncompleted. I really want to get to a certain level with the two that I have. Anyway, I think that's it for now. I'll see you guys in the next one. This time I'm going to wait a few seconds before ending the stream because it just cuts everything off otherwise. Sweet.